Alright, the Hinge Theorem states if two sides of a triangle are congruent to two sides of another triangle, and the included angle of the first is larger than the included angle of the second, then the third side of the first is longer than the third side of the second. If two sides of a triangle are congruent to two sides of another triangle, which means you got two doors that are the same size, and the included angle of the first is larger than the included angle of the second, that means it's open more. Then the third side of the first is longer than the third side of the second. The side that's formed by the edge of the door and the edge of the door opening is going to be longer if it's open more. So let's draw a picture of that. Triangle on the left is ABC. Triangle on the right XYZ. We got two sides of the triangle on the left congruent to two sides of the triangle on the right. If the triangle on the left is open 48 degrees and the triangle on the right is open 37 degrees, and you're asked to compare BC to XZ. Compare BC to XZ. So you're comparing the length of the third side of the triangle on the left to the third side of the triangle on the right. Well, isn't BC going to be greater than XZ? So BC is greater than XZ. Any questions there? All right, turn the page, please. Look at Guided Practice 1A up on the top of page 372. You got a triangle JKL. With one side that's 15, one side that's 12 and a 72 degree angle. Triangle on the right is MPQ. With a side that's 15, a side that's 12, and a side that has a 61 degree angle. Compare JK and MQ. JK is across from a 72. MQ is across from a 61. What's the comparison? JK is greater than MQ. Everybody all right with that? Take a look at the picture next to it. It's another two triangle picture. Now you got one on top of the other one. Triangle RST is on the top with sides 8 and 6. Triangle RVT is on the bottom with sides that are 8 and 11. You're asked to compare angle SRT to angle VRT. Alright, so in this diagram, you're comparing SRT, let's highlight that, SRT, this angle right here, to angle VRT, this angle right here. Alright, in the triangle on the top, you've got a side that's 8 and segment RT or side RT that's in both triangles. In the triangle on the bottom, you have a side that's 8. So what you're looking at here is you've got two sides of one triangle congruent to two sides of another triangle. Now you're using the converse of the Hinge theorem. What you're going to be looking at in this case is what is opposite of the yellow angle and what is opposite of the green angle. The side that's opposite the yellow angle, which is your SRT, is smaller than the side opposite the green angle, isn't it? So which angle is smaller? Yeah, yellow is smaller, isn't it? So less than. That's your Hinge theorem and the converse of the Hinge theorem. Now, look at the top of page 374. Applying algebra to the relationships in triangles. Let's get this diagram drawn. Triangle on the left is JEH. Triangle on the right is GEH. You're asked to find the range of values. Alright, when you're asked to find a range of values for x, your answer has to look like this, that x is less than something and x is greater than something. It's a compound inequality. That's what your answer has to look like, which means you need a lower number on your range and you need an upper or higher number on your range. So in this case, we're trying to find the range of values for x. So in the diagram, you've got two sides of one triangle congruent to two sides of another triangle. Now look at this 65-degree angle. It's got a 9 across from it, doesn't it? And the 6x plus 15 angle has an 11 across from it. So isn't the 65 going to be less than the 6x plus 15? Alright, so pay attention here. If 65 has to be less than 6x plus 15, and your answer has to be in the form of a range of values, well then this 6x plus 15 has to be less than something. And since the 6x plus 15 is one angle in a triangle, then that one angle has to be less than 180 degrees. Because the three angles sum 180. So in this case, when you're setting the upper limit on the angle measure of a triangle, it's got to be 180. Okay? Now when you solve these compound inequalities, whatever you do to the middle, you do to the right side and the left side. So if you subtract 15 from the middle, then 50 is less than 6x, which is less than 165. And then if you divide the middle by 6, the right by 6, and the left by 6, 8.3 is less than x, which is less than 27.5. So in this case, you had to write a compound inequality and you had to create the upper limit of this inequality. Then you had to solve it to get your range of values for x. So your x has to be greater than 8.3 and it's got to be less than 27.5. Again, when you're dealing with angle measures in a triangle and you have to set the upper limit limit's got to be 180 because you cannot have one angle in a triangle equal to or greater than 180. So let's look at the example right below that, the bow tie. And it looks like this. And you're asked again, find the range of values for x. When you see this range of values in a question, you have to think compound inequality. You got to think my answer has to look like this. My x has to be greater than something and my x has to be less than something. So over here in this diagram, you've got a congruent side on the left, a congruent side on the right. Now, these two side lengths that are 50, those are congruent to each other. So two sides of one triangle congruent to two sides of another triangle. This 68 degree angle is across from a 47. and the 55 is across from a 5x plus 2. So doesn't that make the 5x plus 2, since it's across from a 55, isn't it going to be greater than the 68? Or is it less than the 68? The 5x plus 2, or I'm sorry, how does the 5x plus 2 relate to the 47 is the question. It's less than the 47, good. Now, it's got to be greater than something, doesn't it? Since it is one side of a triangle, it has to have a length, so it's got to be greater than 0. So solve the compound inequality. Subtract 2 from the middle, the right, and the left. And divide everything by 5. So negative 2/5 is less than x, which is less than 9. Everybody all right with that? If you have to set an angle in a triangle greater than something, you're going to set it greater than 0 as well. Okay? Alright, so here's some practice for you to do today. Start on page 375. We're going to do 1 through 4, 6, 7, 10 through 15, 17 through 20.